21st of August 2022. This edition of This and That and What the Fuck Else. I will be talking mostly about energy crisis in Europe and the effects of the sanctions. And there's a few hilarious things here. I don't think the average European really understands what is waiting for them. Europe has been spoiled for decades. They had access to cheap, reliable Russian gas and oil, and they destroyed that privilege for Ukraine. And I've asked many times, what the hell is in Ukraine? Why is the West willing to basically bankrupt themselves, put their citizens through hell, and in the process disarm themselves to defend Zelensky? I can't understand it. It just does not make sense at all. And the first one from Germany, of all places. I can't understand this. The Germans, in my mind, I always thought the Germans were hyper-intelligent people, highly intelligent, but they come out with shit like this. Instead of taking a shower, Europeans can wipe themselves with a damp cloth. The rational proposal was announced by the Prime Minister of the German state of Baden-Württemberg, the Green Party. He also suggested heating only one room in winter, not the whole house or apartment. Well, from the Green Party, what else can you expect? And then there's this one. And it's about Sweden. Also, a country that I thought was highly civilized, highly developed. Sweden is massively switching to firewood. But there's the problem. The main import of firewood came from Russia. And now this import is blocked. We will not allow Putin to hold Swedish families and Swedish companies hostage, the head of government said. Well, famous last words if you ask me. And then there's this one from the UK. 45 million Brits to plunge into fuel poverty this winter. Around 18 million families, 2/3 of all UK households, will be pushed into fuel precariousness by January as they struggle to pay skyrocketing energy bills, new research has found. Well, all I want to say on this one is that government that they have there in the UK has got no problem with money because they're putting billions into Ukraine, and they were also giving some insane amount of money to South Africa to transform our energy sector. Now, if you hear that word, transform your energy sector, you must say, "Whoopie, hang on," because we know what happened there. Look what happened in Ghana. That was an energy exporter, and then they transformed them into blackouts. And then there's this German guy. In Germany, an economic model was developed that was largely based on dependence on cheap Russian gas and therefore on a president who ignores international law. That model has failed and it won't come back. Sly Putin has kept Germans economically competitive for decades by supplying cheap gas to the industry. But at last, the German authorities have revealed this plan and put an end to German prosperity. Yeah, there's some conflicting components in that statement, but the fact of the matter is that's the truth. The German economy grew to what it is on cheap Russian gas. And then we're back to the Nord Stream pipeline. The only turbine in the Nord Stream will be stopped on August 31 for 3 days for repairs, Gazprom reports. Gas supplies via Nord Stream will be stopped for the period of repair of the unit, Gazprom added. Now I will add, and what are the chances that after 3 days there is technical problems? I am so sure it's going to happen, because that one that was sent for repair, and which between Canada and Germany they screwed that process totally up, that turbine is still lying in Germany. And then we're back in Germany and more craziness. Sanction to not shower. German Vice-Chancellor's strategy of shorter showers to combat the effect of anti-Russian sanctions backfiring on Munich itself is not enough for the minister. President of the German state of Baden-Württemberg, as he urges German citizens to wipe their body with a damp little towel instead of taking a shower and heating up only one room in a residential building. And they are speeding back to the Stone Age. And now we're in Switzerland. Swiss ski resorts will have to turn off the lifts for the sake of economy. They will take such a step if the country government orders operators to reduce electricity consumption by 20%. And there goes the tourism. But they are happy. They're not going to have a business and will be happy. And more from that Green Party man, Kretschmann. The face cloth is a useful invention. Face cloth instead of a shower spray. Baden-Württemberg's minister-president surprises us with a curious piece of advice on saving energy and promptly earns criticism from various political camps. In times of gas shortage and rising prices, Baden-Württemberg's Prime Minister Winfried Kretschmann sees himself as an energy saver on the right track. I have an electric car. I have a huge photovoltaic system on my roof, the Green politician told Südwestpresse. Well, let's see how far that's going to get him. He has been heating 70% of his water with solar energy for 25 years and has also ordered a pellet heating system. Kretschmann's tip: we usually heat only one room, he said. It's also healthier if you don't have the same temperature everywhere in the house. Besides, he said, you don't have to shower all the time. The face cloth is a useful invention. Kretschmann immediately earned criticism for his flannel proposal. Only a few hours after his proposal, Kretschmann was criticized. If the state sets standards for personal hygiene, then we have reached a level that can hardly be undercut. They are in deep shit in Germany. Deep. They've got lunatics in the driver's seat. If one thought Kretschmann's proposal through to the end, the family of four would then have to share water in the sink once in order to behave according to green energy saving guidelines. CDU energy expert and member of the Bundestag, Maria-Lena Weiss, also criticized in the paper. Constantly new shower tips from the Greens, and SPD Secretary General Kevin Kurner told the news portal online. I find it weird when people with 5-figure monthly incomes tells others how to save. Well, weird is not the right word. And here's a picture of that crazy guy with the face cloth. The man with the face cloth plan. And then there's this. Germany at risk of deindustrialization. A large-scale power crunch could seriously jeopardize the German industrial sector as the country's producers of car parts, chemicals and steel struggle with soaring energy prices. Earlier this week, the European benchmark power price hit a record high of more than €500 per megawatt hour, marking an increase of over 500% in the past year. Well, this is what happens when you make stupid moves. You play stupid games, win stupid prizes. They decided it was a good plan to put sanctions on Russia. The Swiss police admit the possibility of riots and robberies in the country in case of power outages in winter. Imagine it is no longer possible to get money at an ATM, pay with a card in a store, fill the tank of a car at a gas station. The heat supply is no longer functioning and the streets are plunged into darkness. You can then imagine that the population will rise up or robberies will take place. All I know is if these situations actually become real, with all those migrants they have over there, you're going to see violence on the streets. Mark my words. And then we've got Lithuania. Once again, electricity saving measures in the future plan of the ministry, according to the Deputy Remigius Žemaitaitis. What? Lithuanians will have to go to the toilet outside and then bury everything. This means that you will not need a pump to pump water. You do not need to clean sewage and burn light. And most importantly, everything will be natural. And how is that? That could actually have been a what a fuck. Back to the Stone Age. And then there's this. The European Union is ready to unfreeze some funds held by Russian banks under sanctions to allow transactions for food and fertilizer trade. Yeah, well, I think too little too late. Europe will lift part of the sanctions against Russian banks. Their services are needed by the EU for purchase of food and fertilizers. Sanctions will be withdrawn from VTB, PSB, VEB, and there's a lot of banks there. But how? What hypocrites. The things that are now hurting them heavily, that is what they want to lift. But the things that are killing the small businesses, they don't care about that. The things that are killing their households, they don't care about that. Dmitry Kuleba has compared German politicians with drug addicts. That is a guy from the Ukraine. The calls of some German politicians to launch Nord Stream 2 for a short time and then close it are irrational. It resembles drug addiction when a person says, only for the last time. Yeah, well. And then from Viktor Orban. The war in Ukraine will put an end to the Western dominance over the world, believes Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who stated that no matter how much the West helped Kiev, they will not be able to win the war. And thus, when the war ends, the EU will come out weaker, as other countries and regions will benefit. Just like EU sanctions did nothing to destabilize Russia, while causing enormous damage to Europe and the West, which the world refuses to line up behind against Moscow. And there is a lot of truth in that. And then there's this one. So the Starbucks shops has been changed. The first Stars coffee shop opens in Moscow, which replaced Starbucks in Russia. And another Western enterprise bites the dust. And more from Orban. He doesn't believe the West can win militarily in Ukraine. Also, a large part of the world is not getting behind the US when it comes to Ukraine. He pointed to the Chinese, Indians, Brazilians, South Africa, the Arab world, Africa as the regions not supporting the West. And that is the reality. And then this is not this actually sad. More EU firms face bankruptcy. Bankruptcy declarations in the EU increased by 2.2% in April-June period of 2022 compared with the first quarter. Latvia recorded the highest growth with the number of companies filing for bankruptcy up by 74%. It was followed by Belgium, which saw 14%, and Denmark 11.9%. And we must ask Ursula von der Crazy, was it worth it? And she will answer, you will own nothing and be happy. You won't have a business and be happy. And then there's a lengthy thing from a craftsman movement in Germany. They sent a letter to Scholz, an open letter from Heilsal District Craftsman Association. We are justifiably worried. The emotional appeal reads, worries about the future of our children and grandchildren, worries about the continued existence of our businesses, worries about our country. And you can pause the thing and read it all if you want to. Continues here, the trades had found that the vast majority of their customers were not willing to sacrifice their hard-earned standard of living for Ukraine. However, this is exactly what's happening in the Federal Republic of Germany. It is not our war either, but who will listen? Nobody will listen. And it continues. The blatant accusation. Do you want to be the chancellor who brought Germany to ruin? Do you really want to sacrifice your country for Ukraine? Besides all these fierce accusations and condemning words, the Kruishandwerkerschaft also formulates some demands to make Germany's policy more sustainable. On the one hand, an immediate stop to all sanctions against Russia should be obtained, and on the other hand, diplomatic negotiations to end the war should be started. Voices of reason and sanity, but the politicians don't want to hear this. We are not talking about 1 or 2 degrees less room temperature or whether swimming pools have to lower their water temperature. We are talking about Germany dying. Many people in our country realize that. Why don't you? Talking to that greenies is like talking to a piece of rusted steel. And don't forget, they are all in the camp of the WEF. You will own nothing and be happy. And then there's this German official trashes the cost of living protesters as enemies of the state. What will I tell him? Just simply fuck off. And then there's this. Sanction to starvation. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned of a global food crisis as a result of the West's anti-Russian policies, creating obstacles in the flow of Russian food products and fertilizers to the world market. And that is the truth. And the fallout from these sanctions will only be really visible in 2023. And then we get to the warafuck. This is actually hilarious warafuck. Thousands of people plan to attend a barbecue in front of their home of a vegan Australian woman who took her neighbors to court over the smell of meat cooking in their own backyard. Can you imagine this? But that is now what we call a braai. And on that note, please like, subscribe, share, and have a great evening.